Welcome back to Raza Be Reading, where I, Raza, will find stories on the internet and read them to you. I like Pathfinder. I like D&D. I like role-playing in general. I hate having to write a lot of stuff on my own. I know a lot of people like to do homebrews, and don't get me wrong, there is some fun to that. There's a lot of fun to that. But I honestly love pre-written campaigns or adventures, mainly because it gives me something to build off of, and I have always been better working with something that's already been established than I have been making up everything on my own, in my eyes anyway. And when I first started DMing, I did do my own homebrew, but I heavily based it off of material I didn't have at the time. Basically stuff that I saw from different publishers, or mainly Pathfinder or Paizo. Although my party never knew any of that, well, yeah, I just happened to look up a lot of stuff that I could find, and I would write based on that. And then it hit me, why not just buy the pre-written material and see what happens from there? And I fell in love with buying adventure paths from Paizo. In fact, I kind of wish I had them all, because in my eyes, they're interesting. First edition had some very interesting adventures, especially when they did revisions of those adventures. For instance, their first ever adventure path was Rise of the Runelords, and I couldn't imagine what their first publication of that would look like, because when we eventually, me and my party, my wife mainly, when we went to basically get this, we got the anniversary edition, or the revised edition, and in my opinion, it was very well written. Now, we still haven't finished it, sadly. We're in the last module. Everything so far has been quite interesting. My wife does the same thing. She will build upon what's already there. I also have the Curse of the Crimson Throne revised book, hardcover. And honestly, I love the hardcovers for adventure paths. I have a second edition one here, the Gatewalkers. I'm not going to take it out. It's not really worth putting up. And I kind of noticed something of a trend with what they're doing with the second edition stuff. Although it's definitely different than how they've been approaching it in the past. Well, in the past. And it just so happens that Paizo released on their blogs some words from James Jacobs, the creative director. And he talks about the adventure paths and what's to change, what's going to be coming up. Now, if you've never seen the adventure paths from Paizo, they mainly release in a 6-module softcover format, or I guess the better way to say it is 6 books in softcover format. The thing they've been doing with second edition is they have a few hardcovers out there that are, I mean, some of them are multiple adventures, but they center on a theme. One of which that I was very interested in, called Pray for Death. It's mainly focused on the Red Mantis assassins. It's some lore stuff. I don't want to bore anybody who's not interested in that lore. It is lore that I find extremely interesting. I actually love the lore that they've created for Golarion and Paizo, or Pathfinder. Paizo's writers for that stuff, in my opinion, are pretty damn good. Not everyone will agree. That's fine, obviously. But I happened to see this blog, and I wanted to actually talk about it a little bit and give my opinions on the changes to come with the adventure paths. So why don't we look at it together, you know? I know this isn't my normal content, and honestly, I don't really have normal content. So some upcoming changes to the Pathfinder adventure paths is that they're going to do away with the 92 or 96 page monthly softcover. Oh no, sorry. Scratch that. Why don't we read it together? Paizo has built itself upon the strength of its adventures. The first offerings we published set in the world of Golarion were adventures of different types, ranging from short encounters with maps and minis included to classic 32-page softcover standalone modules, and of course, the flagship monthly adventure line, Pathfinder. This line's name became the more specific Pathfinder Adventure Path 2 years later when we launched the Pathfinder RPG. But ever since that first volume kicked off, Rise of the Runelords, nearly 2 decades ago, the format has largely remained the same. That's very true. It's been quite the same since they first started doing it, until 2nd edition, I would say. Even as we recently shifted to focus on 3-part adventure paths, the physical nature of the product hasn't changed from a softcover 96-page monthly softcover book. Why did they say it twice? This format was, in part, a natural evolution of the monthly magazine subscription model of Paizo's early days as a magazine publisher. But it was also a necessary side effect of the work and cost it takes to produce an entire campaign. Over the course of 222 months, man, that makes me feel older than saying years, we kept the adventure path line going at that regular schedule. But also, over the course of 222 months, the world has changed, and it's time for the adventure path to change with it. Now, I'm not going to read every single thing, but I did want to bring to the attention of what's going to change, like what's the major facts. Basically, what's majorly changing is that instead of coming up with a soft cover each month, they're going to start printing hardcovers, 4 of them a year. So what this will help do is basically what are some of the major changes that Paizo is doing is that instead of doing 12 soft covers a year, they're going to be printing out 4 hardcovers a year. And if you really want to get pedantic, sure, they're going to be printing, I guess the amount of paper or the amount of pages you get with the soft covers is 288 pages in total for a full adventure, while doing it with the hardcover is going to reduce it to 256. I don't know. People do get pedantic over that stuff. It seems like a reduction in content, until you realize that with the soft covers, they print multiple pages or multiple things multiple times, like the ORC, certain table of contents, and other stuff. The reduction honestly will come up kind of help work against that redundancy. But the major reason for this is that this allows GMs who want to run their games without delay can have a full adventure and not wait 3 months. And the way they're formatting this is each hardcover is going to cover 9 to 10 levels of play. So basically 1st through 10th and 11th through 20th levels is how they're essentially breaking it down. I don't know if they're going to be doing it in this particular format from like for everything. But in the article or in this blog, they talk about their latest one coming out, or latest 2 adventures that they have planned, Hellbreakers and Hell's Destiny. Each of those have links to each other, but they're not necessarily linked. Hellbreakers happens first, if you want to go by like a chronological order, and Hell's Destiny happens as an aftermath, or it occurs in the aftermath of Hellbreakers. But if you really wanted, you could run them both together. The reason why this is interesting to me, at least, is because Paizo is looking at how different tables run their games. And they're breaking things down in a way that allows for different groups to tackle their material. I know a lot of people who love low-level adventures, and I know people who love mid-level adventures. This isn't going to start with mid-level adventures. Now, they're not excluding doing their other modules or adventures where you get to experience that. But what this is doing is allowing for people to tackle running a certain style of play and running with it, and going with it. Like, your low-level guys will be able to go from 1st to 9th or 10th level, and those who like mid-level to high-level stuff, you have the 11th to 20th. I have yet to see a campaign fully get to 20th level, and I've been playing for a long time, so I'm excited to see this different breakdown. Some other things to take from this blog. James Jacobs says they're still going to be doing the free downloadable player's guide for each of these adventures, which is cool. It's always nice to have free content. This also allows them to write a bit. He says in the article that it gives them a bit more freedom in their writing, because instead of coming up with something on a strictly monthly sort of basis, they now have 3 months to work on everything. I'm more worried about the cohesiveness of everything. One flaw to some of the adventure paths that I've come across, because again, I'm a fan of them, so I get to read them, but I do notice a few flaws, is that they have different writers help with different modules for these adventure paths. And sometimes all those writers get is an overall theme and sort of a battle plan in terms of what to put in it because of the level of the party expected. This doesn't always create a cohesive adventure, especially if those writers have teams that help them. Not everyone's going to write the same, especially groups of people aren't going to always write the same. Carrying Crown is an adventure path that I really, really want to run. And Paizo, please, if you could you revise Carrying Crown for 2nd edition? I want to run it again. I love the 2nd edition rules. The system feels great. And Carrying Crown is something that I've always wanted to run, but also run better. I know you guys have done tons of Whispering Tyrant stuff already, but still, Carrying Crown was something that I was gonna run as like a mega adventure story where it did tie into the whole Whispering Tyrant thing. Anyway, that's just a tangent. I know Paizo's never gonna see this video. It'd be cool if they did. Not that I'm really adding much to what they're saying. It's just a few words of opinion. Anyway, the flaws of adventure paths is that sometimes they're not coherent enough anyway. And one of the flaws for Carrying Crown is that in some parts of it, because different teams worked on it, at least that's my understanding. If my understanding is wrong, then please someone correct me. But I remember talking to someone who was part of the well, he was trying to be a writer for Paizo, and I don't think things worked out quite as well as they could have. But I also remember reading different blog posts from James Jacobs going over a decade ago when he talked about how adventure paths are written. And I've also read some comments on different modules here and there. Carrion Crown has a very weak ending, according to some people in the forums. At least back in the day when I was reading them. But I'm hoping that with this new setup, we have a much better cohesiveness when it comes to the storytelling of these adventure paths. So one thing to consider is that the cost for buying the hardcover versus the softcover is you're buying one product for about 80 bucks as opposed to 3 products for 90 bucks on a monthly basis, and it's one at a time. So, you know, shipping, all that stuff. You're saving some money, essentially. I like that, and I like that that's part of their consideration, at least. Even if it's a minor part, it's still, Paizo's still thinking about its customer base, and that's fantastic in my opinion. That was the major part of the blog that really stood out to me. I am not part of Pathfinder's organized play. I know that that's a whole section of it itself. I mainly was more concerned for the hardcovers and what James Jacobs was saying about the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing these new adventures. And like I said, I'm a fan of the adventure paths. I wish I was able to afford all of them. I'm actually missing a few. Paizo, I'd love to get some help on some of those products. Yeah, the next ones coming out, as mentioned, are Hellbreakers and Hell's Destinies, and they even give a bit of a little description here, and I'm very interested. One of the adventure paths that I wanted to run was the Hell's Rebels campaign. I believe that's when there's a good party in Cheliax, and then there was the evil one where you get to have Hell Knights from the get-go. That's badass. I can't remember the name of that one, but anyway, Hellbreakers is a 1st to 10th level campaign involving the outbreak of the war between Andoran and Cheliax. Can your PCs make the difference in this violent clash? I can't wait to see what this one is about and how this is going to push the lore of the world ahead. And then there's Hell's Destinies. I'd say Adventure Path 11th through 20th, again with their whole new format. That continues the war-torn story of Hellbreakers and can also work on its own as a high-powered campaign. Can your PCs stop a truly diabolical threat from engulfing the Inner Sea region and casting the continent of Aveston into ruin? I'm excited. I want to see this. I want to read it. Anyway, that's what I found interesting, and I wanted to read it to you guys. Are there any other Pathfinder enthusiasts out there that have some opinions of their own for this new development? I mean, to me, it's mostly good news. I don't see any issues with this myself, but there's always other people's perspectives that I may be missing. So comment down below. And if you want to help this channel, please give a like, subscribe, comment. It helps with engagement. I'll also have a link to my Ko-fi account if you want to send a few bucks our way. Money is always welcome. It helps the channel. I'm just a small channel. Honestly, I keep forgetting to even market that part, or at least bring it up. And yeah, it's not. Yeah, anyway, call to action stuff, I'm still trying to get used to it. That's going to do it for this video. I do have a few stories that I want to also cover, but I'm going to separate that into another video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I will see you in the next one, and as always, be good people. Bye-bye.